The grand ballroom, once buzzing with joyous celebration, had become a theater of shock and disbelief. The silence that followed Scarlett's panicked retreat was deafening, punctuated only by the distant strains of the orchestra, unaware of the raw drama unfolding within. My mother, Eleanor, her face streaked with tears, rushed towards me, her embrace fierce and apologetic. "Oh, Tiffany, my brave girl!" she sobbed, holding me tight. "And a baby! My grandchild!" Her words, brimming with a mixture of overwhelming relief and newly understood shame, were a balm to my bruised heart. My father, Richard, usually so composed, stood beside her, his shoulders slumped, his eyes reflecting a profound regret. The image of Scarlett, his golden child, fleeing in disgrace, had clearly shattered his carefully constructed world. Daniel, ever my steady anchor, held me close, one hand resting protectively on my stomach. "Are you all right, my love?" he whispered, his voice laced with concern. I nodded, a fresh wave of tears, this time of pure joy blurring my vision. "More than all right," I choked out, a watery smile blooming on my face. "We did it, Daniel. We actually did it." The initial shock among the guests slowly gave way to a wave of supportive warmth. Marcus, Daniel's best man, was the first to react, swiftly turning off the projection screens and discreetly taking the microphone from the shell-shocked host. Chloe, my maid of honor, rushed to my side, her eyes wide with a mixture of horror and fierce loyalty. "Tiffany, are you okay? What just happened?" "We just exposed a toxic narcissist, Chloe," I said, my voice gaining strength, "and confirmed some rather exciting news." Chloe's eyes widened further, darting to Daniel's hand on my belly. Her gasp was swallowed by the sudden resurgence of conversation in the room. Guests, initially whispering, now surged forward, offering congratulations, apologies for the disruption, and genuine expressions of support. The atmosphere, once poisoned by Scarlett's malice, was now cleansed, filled with a renewed, purified joy. The band, taking their cue from Marcus, struck up a lively tune, and slowly, tentatively, people began to dance again. Daniel and I, hand in hand, moved through the room, accepting hugs and well wishes. There was an undeniable sense of triumph, a collective sigh of relief that the truth had prevailed. Many guests, particularly those who had known Scarlett, offered knowing glances, implicitly acknowledging her long history of attention-seeking and manipulation. For years, her dramatic flair had been tolerated, even quietly admired by some, but today, it had crossed an unforgivable line. One of Daniel's older cousins, a sharp-eyed lawyer named Aunt Carol, pulled me aside. "Tiffany, you handled that with incredible grace and foresight. Most people would have been utterly devastated. But you were ready. That's a testament to your strength and Daniel's partnership." Her words solidified what I already felt. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a battle we had won, together. The next few weeks were a surreal blur of emotions and practicalities. The story of the wedding hijacked by a pregnant sister went viral, picked up by local news outlets and eventually national tabloids, albeit with heavily sensationalized headlines. Our faces and Scarlett's fleeing figure were plastered across gossip sites. For a forensic accountant who thrived on anonymity and discretion, it was a jarring transition to public scrutiny. Thankfully, Daniel's PR team was exceptional, issuing a concise statement that affirmed our marriage, our happiness, and subtly alluded to a family matter being resolved without ever stooping to Scarlett's level of public drama. The real aftermath unfolded behind closed doors. My parents, particularly my father, were utterly devastated by Scarlett's actions. For so long, they had indulged her, excused her behavior, and celebrated her superficial successes. They had, in essence, created the monster who tried to destroy my happiness. The public humiliation forced them to confront the painful truth they had long avoided. A week after the wedding, I received a tearful call from my mother. "Tiffany, your father. He's barely left his study. He just keeps replaying everything. He feels like he failed you, darling." Failed us all. Her voice was raw with grief and exhaustion. We're going to therapy. Both of us. We need to understand how we let this happen. It was the first time my parents had ever admitted fault, had ever sought professional help for a family issue. It was a small but significant step towards healing. I agreed to meet them, cautiously optimistic, a few weeks later for a family therapy session. The therapist, a kind but firm woman named Dr. Evelyn Thorne, led us through a difficult but necessary conversation. My parents confessed to prioritizing Scarlett's emotional needs, or rather, her demands for attention, over my own. They admitted to overlooking her manipulative tendencies, to fostering a competitive environment between us. Tiffany, my father said, his voice thick with emotion, his eyes finally meeting mine. I am so incredibly sorry. I was so blinded by her flashiness, by the image she projected. I never saw how much you were giving, how much you were sacrificing. I didn't see you, my daughter, truly see you. His words, years overdue, were a dam breaking within me. Tears streamed down my face, not of sadness, but of a profound release. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a beginning. A genuine apology, a true acknowledgement of their past mistakes. As for Scarlett, she vanished from the public eye. Her social media accounts, once teeming with daily updates, went dark. Her modeling agency quietly dropped her. The professional world, always eager for a scandal, was equally swift to distance itself from one. Rumors swirled about her leaving Viridian City, perhaps even the country. My parents occasionally try to reach out, but their calls went unanswered, their messages unread. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to her usual clamor for attention. It seemed, for now, Scarlett had truly disappeared, perhaps to face the consequences of her actions in solitude. Meanwhile, Daniel and I focused on our burgeoning future. My pregnancy, revealed amidst the chaos, became our quiet, beautiful focus. The initial weeks were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, nausea, and an overwhelming sense of wonder. Daniel, ever the meticulous planner, devoured every parenting book he could find. His architectural precision now applied to nursery design and baby-proofing. He was attentive, supportive, and endlessly excited. "Can you believe it, Tiff?" he'd ask, his hand resting gently on my still flat stomach. "A tiny sterling haze in there, our baby." The simple phrase, "our baby," filled me with a warmth that no grand gesture could ever replicate. It was the antithesis of everything Scarlett had tried to achieve, a genuine, unmanufactured happiness rooted in shared love and trust. Our fertility journey, which we had kept incredibly private, had been a challenging path. Months of disappointment, medical consultations, and the emotional toll of trying to conceive had tested our resilience. That was part of why Daniel had suggested we be prepared for Scarlett's antics. We had been so vulnerable, so hopeful, and any disruption to our peace felt like a direct threat to our fragile dream. His suggestion to install the monitoring system, a discreet, legal way to log any suspicious digital communication from Scarlett, wasn't born of paranoia, but of a pragmatic desire to protect our emotional well-being during such a sensitive time. My forensic accounting background had simply provided the technical know-how. I remembered a conversation from weeks before the wedding, one that truly solidified Daniel's foresight and our shared resolve. We were having dinner at our favorite quiet Italian place, reviewing the guest list, when the topic of Scarlett came up. "She's been particularly clingy, hasn't she?" I mused, stirring my pasta. "Always finding reasons to call you, to accidentally show up wherever we are." Daniel put down his fork, his expression serious. "Tiff, I've had sisters who pulled similar stunts with their boyfriends in college. It's usually harmless competition, but with Scarlett, she seems to be escalating." He paused, weighing his words carefully. "I've picked up on a few things. Subtle attempts to undermine you, to make herself seem more exciting. She talks about your shared history in a way that always makes you look less adventurous, less fun." A cold dread settled in my stomach. "I know," I admitted. my voice barely a whisper. "I've felt it my whole life, but I never thought she'd be so brazen, especially not with you. Not when it's so serious." "Exactly why we need to be prepared," Daniel said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "She thrives on chaos. She wants to be the center of attention always. And your wedding, our wedding, will be the ultimate spotlight. If she can't be the bride, she'll find another way to steal the show." That's when he suggested the monitoring. "It's not about mistrusting her," he clarified, seeing the hesitation in my eyes. "It's about protecting our peace. If she's planning something, we need to know. And if she's not, then no harm done. But if she is, we need to be ready to disarm her." My analytical mind, trained to detect fraud and manipulation, immediately saw the logic. It wasn't about being vindictive. It was about self-preservation. We discreetly engaged a tech consultant, a former colleague from my firm who specialized in digital forensics, to help us set up a system that would legally track any communications Scarlett initiated with Daniel, especially outside of group chats or innocent wedding planning discussions. We knew the risks of such a move, the potential for accusations of invasion of privacy, but we reasoned that a public accusation on our wedding day would be far more damaging without proof to counter it. The audio recording of Scarlett's drunken confession, however, was pure luck. Marcus had simply happened to be in earshot when she made the call, and, suspecting something was amiss, discreetly hit record on his phone. He'd shown it to Daniel just a day before the wedding, confirming our worst fears and solidifying our plan. The pre-wedding days became a strange mix of excited anticipation and strategic preparation. While I attended my final dress fittings, feigning ignorance of Scarlett's growing attempts to charm Daniel, he was subtly documenting her increasingly desperate overtures. She would send him late-night texts, ostensibly about last-minute vendor questions, but inevitably veering into personal territory, questioning my compatibility with him, hinting at shared secrets they supposedly had. One time, she even accidentally sent him a photo of herself in a slinky nightgown, claiming it was meant for a modeling shoot and apologizing profusely for the mix-up. Daniel simply forwarded these to a secure folder, his calm demeanor unwavering, knowing exactly what she was attempting. "She's trying to establish a false narrative." I'd explained to him, my forensic mind already dissecting her tactics. "She wants you to feel guilty, to think you have some sort of secret bond or shared history with her, even if it's entirely one-sided. It's classic gaslighting, making you doubt your reality, and by extension, your relationship with me." Our strategy wasn't about engaging her directly. It was about gathering undeniable evidence so that when she inevitably made her move, her lies would be exposed not by our word against hers, but by her own undeniable actions. The "we laughed" moment at the wedding wasn't just spontaneous relief, it was the satisfaction of a trap sprung, a meticulous plan executed perfectly. Months later, the Viridian city skyline was once again painted in hues of gold and amber, but this time, it was the soft glow of dusk filtering into our newly decorated nursery. The room was a sanctuary, filled with a gentle light, whimsical animal murals, and the promise of new life. My baby bump was now prominently rounded, a constant reminder of the beautiful future growing within me. My relationship with my parents was slowly, painstakingly rebuilding. They continued their therapy, and more importantly, they started to show up for me in ways they never had before. My mother, Eleanor, who had always been so preoccupied with Scarlett's latest photo shoot or public appearance, now called to ask about my pregnancy, offering genuine advice and support. She knitted tiny booties and spent hours poring over baby name books with me, her eyes alight with a grandmother's anticipation. My father, Richard, once so distant, now insisted on weekly dinners, not to discuss Scarlett, but to hear about my work, my life with Daniel, and the miracle of our impending parenthood. He even asked me to review some of his business's financial statements, a quiet acknowledgement of my professional expertise, a stark contrast to his past dismissals. The shift was subtle but profound. They were learning to value me for who I was, not for what I represented or how I compared to my sister. Scarlett remained a ghost, No apologies, no explanations, no contact. Part of me, the old Tiffany, still yearned for a genuine reconciliation for the sister I once knew. But the stronger, wiser Tiffany understood that true healing might require her absence. Her silence, paradoxically, was a form of peace. It allowed me to move forward free from the constant shadow of her competition and manipulation. My life with Daniel was everything I had ever dreamed of, and more. Our shared experience, facing down a public humiliation with grace and forethought, had forged an unbreakable bond. We were partners in the truest sense of the word, not just in love, but in strategy, in resilience, in facing adversity head-on. One evening, as Daniel gently massaged my swollen feet, he looked up at me, his eyes full of love. "You know, Tiffany," he said, "what Scarlett tried to do, it could have broken us. It could have destroyed everything." "It could have," I agreed, leaning my head against his shoulder. "But it didn't. Instead, it showed us how strong we really are, and it cleared the path for us to build something truly real, truly ours." He smiled, then gently pressed a kiss to my belly. "And now, we have an even bigger reason to laugh at anyone who tries to dim our light." As the months of my pregnancy drew to a close, the anticipation in our home was almost palpable. The nursery, once a blank canvas, was now a vibrant haven, filled with soft blankets, tiny clothes, and the gentle glow of a nightlight. Daniel had meticulously constructed a custom-built crib, its design echoing the elegant lines of his architectural projects, a tangible expression of his boundless excitement. Our lives, once consumed by the shadow of Scarlett's drama, were now overflowing with a different kind of intensity, the joyful, all-consuming anticipation of parenthood. My baby shower, organized by Chloe with meticulous attention to detail, was a far cry from the chaotic spectacle of my wedding. It was intimate, filled with genuine warmth and laughter, surrounded by friends and family who truly celebrated our happiness. My parents were there, subdued but visibly proud. My mother, Eleanor, her eyes often misty, watched me with a newfound tenderness. My father, Richard, even managed a few heartfelt jokes, a genuine smile replacing his usual stoicism. The healing process was slow, but it was happening. There was no mention of Scarlett, a silent agreement that her absence was a necessary part of our peace. Then came the day. Labor, long and arduous, pushed me to my limits. But Daniel was there, a constant presence, his hand never leaving mine. His strength became my strength, his calm a soothing balm to my rising panic. And then, amidst the cries of triumph and relief, our son entered the world. We named him Leo, a name that signified strength and courage, qualities we hoped he would inherit from our journey. Holding Leo for the first time was an experience beyond words. His tiny hand curled around my finger, his miniature face a perfect blend of Daniel and me. In that moment, all the pain, all the past betrayals, all the lingering bitterness faded into insignificance. This was true joy, raw and pure, a love that transcended any drama. Life with a newborn was a beautiful, exhausting blur. Sleepless nights were filled with the soft coos of our son, and early mornings were marked by the sunrise painting the nursery walls as I rocked him back to sleep. Daniel embraced fatherhood with an enthusiasm that both charmed and amazed me. He was a natural, his steady hands capable of changing diapers with surprising dexterity, and his calm voice able to soothe even the fussiest of cries. We learned together, navigating the uncharted waters of parenthood, our love for Leo deepening our bond in ways we never imagined. My parents became doting grandparents, their presence in our lives now a source of comfort and unwavering support. They visited often, bringing homemade meals and a willingness to help that was genuinely selfless. My mother, who once saw success only through Scarlett's public acclaim, now found profound joy in simply holding Leo, singing him lullabies and watching him sleep. My father, the once distant patriarch, delighted in teaching Leo about building blocks and sketching fantastical structures, nurturing a new kind of connection, free from the old patterns of favoritism. The cracks in our family foundation were slowly, painstakingly, being filled with new layers of understanding and unconditional love. Sometimes, in the quiet moments after Leo had finally drifted off to sleep, I would sit in his nursery, gazing at his peaceful face. My mind would occasionally drift back to the wedding, to Scarlett's desperate attempt to shatter our happiness. I would remember the shock, the anger, the moment of pure absurdity when Daniel and I had simply burst out laughing. It felt like a lifetime ago. A distant storm that had ultimately cleared the skies for a brighter, more honest dawn. I still had moments of sadness, brief pangs for the sister I had lost, for the family dynamic that could have been. But these moments were fleeting, quickly overshadowed by the profound gratitude for the family I had built. Daniel, Leo, and the slowly mending relationship with my parents were proof that even from the ashes of betrayal, something beautiful and resilient could rise. My career as a forensic accountant continued to thrive. The public exposure from the wedding, ironically, had brought a strange kind of recognition. Clients admired my composure under pressure, my meticulous attention to detail, and my unwavering commitment to truth. It became clear that the very skills I used to unravel complex financial frauds were equally applicable to untangling personal betrayals. I even started volunteering for a pro bono initiative that helped victims of familial financial abuse, using my expertise to guide others through similar painful journeys, turning my own experience into a source of empowerment for others. 1 year passed. Leo's first birthday was a joyous celebration, a testament to resilience and new beginnings. The ballroom, where our wedding reception had turned into a public spectacle, now hosted a small, intimate gathering of close family and friends. There were no grand pronouncements, just the pure, unadulterated laughter of a baby discovering the joy of smashing cake. My parents watched Leo with adoration, their eyes shining with a love that felt unburdened by past regrets. Chloe was there, taking endless photos, her friendship a constant, unwavering light. A few days after the party, a package arrived at my office. It was small, discreet, with no return address. My heart pounded as I opened it. Inside, nestled amongst tissue paper, was a small, exquisitely carved wooden animal, a tiny, detailed elephant, and a note written in a hand I hadn't seen in over a year. Thinking of you. Thinking of him. Maybe someday. S. It was from Scarlett. The small elephant was a stark contrast to the flamboyant, attention-seeking gestures of her past. It was subtle, almost vulnerable. It didn't demand a response, didn't try to manipulate. It was just a gesture, a quiet acknowledgement from the shadows. I didn't know what to make of it. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to sever the last thread. But another part, the part that still remembered the little sister who used to look up to me, felt a flicker of something akin to hope, not for an immediate reconciliation, but for the possibility of a different future. I placed the wooden elephant on Leo's nursery shelf, amongst his other treasured toys. It wasn't a sign of forgiveness, not yet. It was a symbol of complexity, a quiet testament to the long, winding path of family relationships. Perhaps one day, when Leo was older, I would tell him the story of his aunt, not as a villain, but as a cautionary tale of misguided ambition, and perhaps a distant hope of redemption. Life, I've learned, is rarely a straight line. It's full of unexpected twists, dramatic turns, and people who will test your boundaries. But sometimes, in the face of the most audacious betrayals, you find your truest strength. You learn that your worth isn't defined by anyone else's perception, or by their attempts to diminish you. It's defined by your integrity, your resilience, and the unwavering love you share with those who truly see and celebrate you for who you are. And sometimes, when faced with an outrageous lie, the most powerful response you can offer is simply a good, honest laugh, secure in the knowledge that your truth will always shine brighter than their fabricated drama. This journey taught me that true family supports your growth rather than exploits your goodness. It's about building a life aligned with your authentic values, surrounded by people who lift you up, not tear you down. Your dignity is never for sale. It is the one thing no one can take from you unless you give it away. Hold on to it, protect it, and let it guide you. For in the end, the most satisfying victory isn't revenge, but the serene joy of a life reclaimed, a heart healed, and a future built on genuine love and respect. Every challenge, every moment of adversity, becomes a stepping stone towards understanding your own power and the unwavering strength of true, unconditional love. My story isn't just about a wedding disrupted or a sister exposed. It's about the quiet, persistent voice inside that whispers your worth, even when others try to shout it down. It's about finding the courage to trust that voice, to set boundaries, and to reclaim your space, your joy, and your dignity. It's about the truth, always. Eventually, finding its way to the light. And it's about the laughter, the kind that bursts forth from a place of deep contentment and security. The laughter that says, "You tried to break us, but you only made us stronger." The years that followed solidified the new landscape of my life. Leo grew from a cooing infant into a bright, curious toddler, his laughter echoing through our home, a constant reminder of the pure joy we had fought so hard to protect. His eyes, a striking blend of my analytical gaze and Daniel's deep, thoughtful brown, absorbed the world with boundless enthusiasm. He had Daniel's knack for building intricate towers with blocks, and my own quiet determination to finish any puzzle, no matter how complex. Parenthood, I discovered, was a delicate dance between chaos and profound love, a constant lesson in patience and selflessness. Daniel and I, navigating its challenges together, found ourselves more deeply connected than ever. Our late-night conversations shifted from architectural blueprints and financial audits to developmental milestones and the best techniques for dealing with toddler tantrums. Every shared triumph, every exhausted sigh, cemented our partnership. My parents continued their journey of introspection and healing. The weekly therapy sessions had evolved into a genuine commitment to personal growth. My mother, Eleanor, began to explore hobbies she had long abandoned, finding joy in gardening and pottery, activities that had nothing to do with her daughter's achievements. My father, Richard, started volunteering at a local community center, mentoring young entrepreneurs, a subtle but significant shift from his previous focus on his own business's financial success. Their transformation wasn't a sudden, dramatic reversal, but a gradual, consistent effort to become better versions of themselves. Their relationship with me flourished. They became the grandparents every child deserved, showering Leo with unconditional love and genuine attention. My mother would often spend entire afternoons at our house, not just to help, but to genuinely connect with me, sharing stories from her own motherhood, offering gentle wisdom without a hint of judgment or comparison. My father, with a warmth I had rarely seen in my childhood, would join Daniel and Leo in the backyard, building elaborate tree houses, or teaching Leo how to kick a soccer ball, his booming laughter now filled with unadulterated joy. One evening, after putting Leo to bed, my father stayed late. He looked at me, a softness in his eyes that surprised me even after all this time. "Tiffany," he began, his voice a little gruff with emotion, "your mother and we've spent a lot of time reflecting, and we realize we put you through so much. We were so caught up in Scarlett's luminescence that we didn't see your quiet strength, your incredible intelligence, your unwavering integrity. We missed so much of who you truly were." He paused, taking a deep breath. "We are so profoundly sorry, my dear, for everything." His words, spoken with such raw honesty, truly reached me. It wasn't just an apology for the wedding incident, but for years of subtle neglect, of unspoken comparisons, of a childhood overshadowed. I felt a surge of emotion, a mix of old pain and new understanding. "I know, Dad," I said, my voice thick. "It was hard. But we're here now. And it means the world to me to see you both truly happy, truly present." He nodded, a tear tracing a path down his weathered cheek. "You taught us, Tiffany. You taught us what true worth is. Not what you can acquire or what others see, but what you build with integrity and love." That night, our bond deepened. moving from cautious reconciliation to a true, mature connection built on shared understanding and mutual respect. My work also gained a new dimension. The pro bono initiative for victims of familial financial abuse grew, and I found myself leading a small team of passionate forensic accountants and legal aid professionals. Each case was a stark reminder of my own past, but also a powerful affirmation of my purpose. I helped a young woman recover assets stolen by a manipulative step-parent. I guided a man through the complex process of severing financial ties with an exploitative sibling. My meticulous approach, combined with a newfound empathy, allowed me to connect with clients on a deeper level, offering not just financial expertise, but also emotional support and validation. It was immensely gratifying, a way to transmute my own pain into purpose. Scarlett remained a shadow. We heard snippets through distant relatives that she had moved to a small town upstate, far from the city's glare, and was working quietly, perhaps in a creative field unrelated to her previous public persona. There were no grand comebacks, no dramatic apologies, no attempts to re-enter our lives. Her silence was definitive, a stark reflection of the consequences of her actions. The small wooden elephant still sat on Leo's shelf, a quiet, almost forgotten artifact from a tumultuous past. It was no longer a source of pain or anxiety, but a reminder of how far we had come, how much we had grown. One sunny afternoon, I sat in our living room, watching Leo, now a boisterous 3-year-old, build a magnificent castle out of cushions and blankets. Daniel was at his side, offering architectural advice, his laughter mingling with Leo's joyful squeals. My parents were due to arrive for their weekly visit, bringing Leo's favorite homemade cookies. The scene was simple, ordinary, yet filled with an extraordinary sense of peace and contentment. I thought back to the woman I was just a few years ago, the meticulous forensic accountant, quiet and observant, often overshadowed by her sister's brilliance, carrying a silent burden of parental neglect and competitive pressure. The wedding had been a crucible, a moment of profound truth that had shattered old illusions and forced me to confront long-standing family dynamics. It was more than just a public embarrassment. It was a defining moment. It had forced my parents to open their eyes, to acknowledge the imbalance they had created. It had solidified Daniel's place as my unwavering partner, proving his loyalty and foresight under immense pressure. And it had shown me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that my voice, my boundaries, and my inherent worth were not just valid, but powerful. I realized then that true family wasn't about blood alone. It was about respect, about seeing and valuing each other for who you truly are, about unwavering support in times of crisis, and about celebrating each other's triumphs without jealousy or agenda. It was about acknowledging flaws and working towards healing, even when it was difficult and painful. Life, I've learned, is rarely a straight line. It's full of unexpected twists, dramatic turns, and people who will test your boundaries. But sometimes, in the face of the most audacious betrayals, you find your truest strength. You learn that your worth isn't defined by anyone else's perception, or by their attempts to diminish you. It's defined by your integrity, your resilience, and the unwavering love you share with those who truly see and celebrate you for who you are. And sometimes, when faced with an outrageous lie, the most powerful response you can offer is simply a good, honest laugh, secure in the knowledge that your truth will always shine brighter than their fabricated drama. This journey taught me that true family supports your growth rather than exploits your goodness. It's about building a life aligned with your authentic values, surrounded by people who lift you up, not tear you down. Your dignity is never for sale. It is the one thing no one can take from you unless you give it away. Hold on to it, protect it, and let it guide you. For in the end, the most satisfying victory isn't revenge, but the serene joy of a life reclaimed, a heart healed, and a future built on genuine love and respect. Every challenge, every moment of adversity, becomes a stepping stone towards understanding your own power and the unwavering strength of true, unconditional love. My story isn't just about a wedding disrupted or a sister exposed. It's about the quiet, persistent voice inside that whispers your worth, even when others try to shout it down. It's about finding the courage to trust that voice, to set boundaries, and to reclaim your space, your joy, and your dignity. It's about the truth, always, eventually, finding its way to the light. And it's about the laughter, the kind that bursts forth from a place of deep contentment and security, the laughter that says, "You tried to break us, but you only made us stronger." So, I ask you, if you've ever had to draw a difficult line with family members who were taking advantage of you, or who simply didn't see your worth beyond what you could provide, how did you find your voice, set your boundaries, and reclaim your life and your dignity? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, if it helped you recognize your own worth and the power of saying enough is enough, please hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming adversity and finding your strength, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to prioritize their own well-being and self-respect. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your dignity is never for sale. True family supports your growth rather than exploits your goodness.